You moved in together and suddenly you're standing in a living room that's half yours, watching 4 kids argue over what to watch on TV again. And you're thinking, how on earth did I end up here? But you're all in, and nobody told you what that would actually look like on a Tuesday evening when you're tired and you just want everyone to go to bed. Hello, I'm Katy South, and this is Stepmom Space, the judgment-free zone where we talk candidly about the fairy tales and scary tales of stepmom life. So whether you've been a stepmom for years, you're just starting out, or you want to understand the stepmom in your life a bit better, this is the place for you. Today I'm joined by Katy and Amy, a same-sex couple who fell in love at the school gates, left decade-long marriages and built a blended family of 6 from scratch. With 4 children, 2 living rooms eventually, and more honesty than most couples manage in a lifetime. Let's get into it. I'm so delighted to be joined by Katy and Amy, who got in touch with me via Instagram to share a little bit about their experience as a same-sex couple navigating step-parenting together. So firstly, thank you so much for getting in touch with me, because we love exploring all elements of step-parenting on the show. So I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm so looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having us on. We're really excited to be here, aren't we?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So where shall we start? Do you want to share a little bit about how you first met?
Okay. So we're going back a couple of years now to the school run where, of course, you drop your children off at school in the morning and you have that waiting for school to start at 9 a.m. amongst all of the other mums and things like that. Amy's child was going into the same class as one of mine. And
so my son was having a bit of a difficult time, and Katy reached out to make sure that he was okay and to say that her son would look after him, which was amazing.
I could see in her face from mum to mum just how much she was struggling to get her child into school, and I really felt for her.
So I was really grateful to have that. And I hadn't really made any friends so far. It was a really tiny school, really tiny village school. And we started messaging each other and just became very close very quickly, and seemed to share so much in common and felt like we knew each other so well without hardly knowing each other at all. And I was doing 10,000 steps a day. So every day I was doing a walk after the school run, and Katy started work a bit later, so she had a bit of time and she would come and walk with me.
Yeah, way to have another little chat in the morning. Like, it's not long enough. The school run's not long enough. Let's go for a walk after.
Yeah. And it turned out that the walk and the school run weren't long enough. So we ended up over a period of time really falling for each other.
And then at this point, were you two both single?
No.
Both of us were married to men for 10 years and the father of our children. And we were both very happily married. I had just bought a property with my husband, which was going to be the forever dream home. And so I was absolutely ecstatic about that.
And I ran a business with my ex-husband, and we had a really close family and a really lovely marriage. There was definitely nothing wrong.
No.
In either of our family life at all.
Yeah.
So you started going for the walks.
The conversation was just always flowing. It felt like you were speaking to somebody that you'd known forever. And looking back, the chemistry, it was so electric. It felt exciting. I woke up every morning feeling like I'd won the lottery. But in terms of just having a friend, somebody, and I had friends before, but I was just so excited to speak to Amy and to see Amy every day.
Yeah.
That the school run became, my life revolved around it. I was excited for 9 a.m. and I was excited for 3:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And everything in between that was absolutely fine, but it had come down a level, if you will.
Yeah, it was like experiencing something that neither of us had experienced before. And when Katy talks about the chemistry, it was really hard to identify what exactly that was at the time. but we both felt it. We didn't say it particularly. Then we did used to say, what is this?
What is this?
Why are we laughing so much?
Neither of us knew what that was. It was like having adrenaline inside your stomach, like a little ball of energy, and it tickled and it was nice and it was fun and it gave us energy.
Yeah, it was exciting and made us feel
incredibly addictive.
Yeah, definitely. And also made us feel like we both had a drive for things again.
Yes.
One of our friends at the school said to us, it's like there's been a fire lit inside you. This is before anything had even been said, even to each other. She was like, you both just seem so alive. Exactly. And
I was painting again in the evening, something which I definitely put on the back burner since I'd had the children.
And I was singing again. I hadn't been singing for a long time, but I started wanting to sing. I was recording songs. I was sending them to Katy. And I was feeling really driven and ambitious again.
We were looking after our health.
Yeah, we were just in a really great place.
And when did you think, okay, my new friendship's amazing, but there's something more?
There were a couple of times when we would be messaging, and I know that we both felt, so I'm going to speak on behalf of both of us, but do interrupt. I felt like we were both pulling away from each other a little bit. And I think that's when the conversations got a little bit into a different area where I know for me, I definitely felt like I've crossed the line here, or she's crossed the line here. I feel uncomfortable and I'm married and I'm happily married and I'm here and I'm in this house and everything's absolutely perfect. I don't want to ruin this. She's my friend. And we would pull away from each other, and that would then cause a little bit of a disconnect from us.
Because the other person would feel like, why are you being different?
Where's my playmate gone?
Yeah, exactly. But it was always quite temporary that would happen.
Very.
And we would always ask each other what's going on. So the friendship lasted as just a friendship for about 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
And then eventually we got to a point where we both had done that pullback thing. And in the couple of weeks leading up to that pullback in particular, I think we had definitely noticed within ourselves that we were maybe a bit flirty at this point. So it definitely did feel like this isn't appropriate. And
my focus certainly wasn't anymore really on my home. My children, absolutely.
Yeah.
But in terms of
the family life.
My home was a project house, which I needed to do up. And I could not, for the life of me, begin to even contemplate doing anything to that house at all. I couldn't. My focus was completely on Amy.
Yeah.
It sounds like falling wildly in love, but at the time, you haven't quite named it.
Yeah. We hadn't named it. And by the time that we actually said how we felt, we were in love. It wasn't just a case of, I think I might have some feelings for you, or I fancy you. It was very much like, I'm in love with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just say as well, you two, just to look at, I cannot stop smiling. It's obviously, we'll get into how difficult it must have been and maybe continues to be. But at the heart of it, what an amazing love story.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really lovely to say that.
So you then realise that you've got these feelings for each other. How do you move from a decade of marriage each, homes, families, also married to men, to building your life together? It just sounds hugely complex.
It was the most complex thing I could possibly think of, and actually way more than we actually realised it would be.
There was no time to consider just how difficult it would have been, because everything was from
a reactive place. We had to be reactive. Yeah. It was
like running.
I was just going to say, it was like running. You had to start running. So we had to make really fast decisions all the time, some of which weren't the right decisions to make, particularly with regards to, as we'll come to, I'm sure, but with regards to step parenting or living together or not living together and things like that. But there were a lot of decisions that had to be made because they just had to happen at that time.
Yeah. And we always did our best.
Yeah, we definitely did our best. And we put the children before ourselves always. But it was difficult, an extremely painful time.
There are a lot of women who listen to this podcast who have become stepmums by their relationship starting out as an affair. There's no other way to put it. It's incredibly common. Nobody talks about it. It's shrouded in shame for all the reasons we understand. And the fact is, these things happen. The more we can talk about them, the more we bring them out, help people understand that they are not a bad person because their relationship might not have started in the way that people deem the most desirable. So do you mind me asking, how did you tell your husbands, or did it come out? Did you sit them down?
I actually told my husband that I really liked girls because I knew that the way I felt about Amy, I had felt so alive and so 100% comfortable within myself for the first time ever, that I knew that even this was before I'd even imagined me and her even being together. I knew that I wanted to come out. And
it's like how you felt with a woman versus how you felt with a man was very different.
Very different. So I told him that I liked women, and that in itself is devastating enough just to be told that one evening. And yeah, in terms of yours.
Just a quick one. There's a version of you that existed before you became a stepmom. Confident, sociable, certain of who you were in your own home. And somewhere in all the self-editing, the managing everyone else's feelings and trying to be a perfect stepmom, she went quiet. You're not who you used to be. That's what this role does to you when nobody explains the system you're operating inside. The Stepmom Reset is a small online group I run. It's 2 evenings with women who already understand, where you start finding your way back to the you that you used to be, the one you loved being. Book your place at stepmomspace.com/stepmomreset. Spaces are limited and I won't run this again until 2027. Back to the show.
Yes, with my husband, he knew that I was really close with Katy. He also knew that I was bisexual because I had relationships with women myself in my younger years. But yeah, I told him that me and Katy had moved into something more than friends. And in terms of, I agree with everything you just said about an affair. It was a really big decision to even decide to make an account and go onto Instagram and talk about it, because as you said, it is shrouded in shame.
Yeah.
It was a very short period of time, literally 3 weeks, where it crossed over from friends into something else.
Not that we're trying to justify it, but
not at all.
A short length of time, but yeah.
That's what it was. But what I was going to say is that during that time, we spent most of that time trying to work out how is the best way to tell the husbands, and also whether or not we could try to not feel the way that we did. Could we stay in the marriage? Could we actually get rid of the feelings we had? Could we just stay as friends?
Yeah.
That's what the majority of that period of time was.
Yeah, there was just a lot of crying, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way you talk about it is, on one side, there's this part of you that's, oh my God, I've never felt like this amazing chemistry, this amazing love, this is incredible. And the other part of you is, fuck, what does this mean for my whole life? Because you don't choose the feelings that you have, do you?
No, you don't. And for me, I didn't even think about my whole life at that moment.
No.
All I knew was that I could not continue having this affair, and I couldn't continue waking up every day knowing that I was now living a life which I knew I was not meant for. It was like clarity all of a sudden. And it probably looks really naive to think, oh, how did you not know that you were gay? But it's not that simple. That's a whole other topic, but it's not that simple. It wasn't an easy thing. I definitely loved my husband. Yeah.
No, definitely. And for me, like I said, I'd lived my life being bisexual, married to a man, had relationships with women. But really what I felt with Katy and what I feel now is a version of myself, and even how I am in the relationship, or the roles that we have.
Yeah.
I feel like me. And that it doesn't take away, and I know Katy feels the same, it doesn't take away from the amazing marriages that we did have and the time that we had together. And it's really desperately sad, because in order to be together, we had to end a chapter, which was an amazing chapter of our lives.
Yeah.
But once we had experienced how we felt with each other, which was crossing over into a sexuality thing, coming out, it really wasn't possible to go back and feel like the person you were before, because we aren't that person anymore.
Yeah.
And how courageous of you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Doesn't always feel like that, but thank you.
I always want to whisper thank you when somebody says it, because it doesn't feel deserved.
Yeah.
No.
But it's like you said, a really hard decision to make and difficult. It's to be your true self whilst knowing that the knock-on impact for other people might be painful. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons I love what you're doing so much is because it will help so many other people who are in the same situation. So you're in the middle of this really, on one hand, hugely exciting phase of life, but on the other side, really painful side of life. Can you share a little bit about how you uncoupled with your husbands, but then more importantly, came together to build your new family?
So it happened slightly differently for both of us. My separation happened very fast, from telling him to then getting a rental in place to then moving out and being then in a house on my own with the two children.
How old were your kids at that time?
6 and 8. It happened quickly, and I don't think I slept properly. I don't think I ate properly.
She was very unwell during
very unwell. I got pleurisy.
Went into hospital.
Yeah, and the lack of support around me was, I didn't have any support. Amy, of course, but throughout periods of that time, me and her weren't in any contact, and just managing to get up every day and do the school run. But no longer because I wanted to see Amy. It's not that I didn't want to see you, but life had changed completely. I was just trying to keep everything normal for the children. And luckily, it was normal for them. Me and my husband very much managed to pull ourselves together and able to parent the children exactly the way that we would before. And just had those difficult conversations, but it was very done, I'm glad to say. But
And so your kids at that point are like, mummy and daddy have split up, but they're getting on the surface and you're co-parenting well.
My ex-husband worked incredibly long hours. I was the main child
primary carer.
Primary carer. And we just kept everything normal. Daddy came home and had tea, and it's up to bed now. So just keeping everything as normal as possible. And of course, they feed off of me. Mum, I'm the home. So as long as mum's okay, they're okay. So I knew I had to make sure that as long as I've got a smile on my face and I'm okay, they're going to read off of that, bound off of that, and everything will be okay. So,
and once you moved out, you still kept in place a routine of when they saw dad.
Yeah, that's
from the word go.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so when you both came out, were you already thinking, what does this mean for our children?
Do you know what? For me, I didn't.
Do you mean specifically coming out as gay, or do you mean coming out to be with each other?
I guess both.
I didn't think what it would mean for them. I just knew that they would be okay. They're going to be with me. It's going to be okay. It was so done in a reactive state.
It's very fast.
That I can't really remember it, if I'm honest. It takes a lot to think back, and it feels incredibly uncomfortable to think back, but it was just so fast. So fast.
Yeah. What feels so uncomfortable?
It's just so desperately sad. So desperately sad to go from one life to then this really messy middle bit. And I've always likened it to throwing a bomb at your life, watching it explode, then waiting for all of the dust and the rubble to settle, and then having to clean it up. And that cleanup process is such a long time.
It took way longer than we thought.
In fact, it's like exploding actually yourself in with the bomb, and having to put yourself back together also. But also having to parent, having to get up every day, Saturdays, birthday parties, Christmas, Easter, all of those things with a smile, put on your face.
And going to work and doing all the other things.
I've missed going to work. Yeah, definitely. I think work was my savior, though, in all honesty. Yeah. So that is what's just uncomfortable to think back on, because it was just uncomfortable.
And so at that point, Katy, you'd moved out into your own rental place. Amy, what happened with you before you moved in together?
So the split with my husband took longer. We tried for a bit longer to stay together. So there were lots of periods of time. At this point, everything was transparent. So he knew how I felt about Katy. We had really honest conversations regularly about it. Lots of times where Katy and I would try to not feel the way we did. And this went on for quite a long period of time. We had to live together because of our circumstances financially. And it's really hard to be in that, where you have to stay where you are. Eventually, it reached a point where it wasn't sustainable anymore. And we had officially split up. We were still living together. We did a little bit of, I think it's called bird nesting.
Yeah.
And so I stayed at the time. I had a family member that lived down the road. So sometimes I would stay there with him and go there once the boys had gone to sleep and then come back in the morning.
And how old were your kids at this time?
Mine were 5 and 7.
Okay. Oh my gosh, girls.
It was a very full-on time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, we don't talk about this particular time as much now, I would say. And I feel really emotional talking about this.
It's okay.
It's like going back to, this was the worst time, the worst time. And it really, I think if somebody had said to us then, this is how bad it's going to be and how long it's going to go on for, I wouldn't have believed them. It wouldn't have changed my decision, because it didn't even feel like a decision anyway, to be honest. But it was definitely way bigger and more traumatic and more painful. And for me, I know Katy feels the same, but my boys were just like the savior in it all. They were home. They were the constant. Whatever happened, whether I was staying down the road with a family member, whether I was staying over at Katy's or whatever we were doing.
They were the only bit of normality.
Yeah.
It was such a joy to be going through the worst thing of your life that you could imagine for us. But then your child saying, Mummy, do you want to play the PlayStation with me?
Or, Mummy, look at this picture that I've just drawn.
Mummy, can we go for a bike ride?
Yeah.
And it really brings you back into the moment.
Yeah.
And
they're brilliant.
Children are just incredible, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They've been the saviour.
Yeah.
You have to get up and put one foot in front of the other and show up. And I'd say the same. Anything that I've been through that's been difficult, it has always been, you've got to show up, you've got to be a mum, you've got to get on with it. And someone else is more important than you ultimately. So you put the face on and get on with it.
Yeah.
At this time, you've gone through, like you say, the most difficult period of your life. You've also fallen in love with somebody who is going to be the biggest love of your life. And between you have these 4 kids who are 5, 6, 7, and 8. Did you know each other's kids before? Did you have a relationship with them?
At school, my daughter and your eldest son were best friends, and they're only a year apart. And we would do play dates. So Amy would pick up my daughter from school and take her home for a couple of hours, feed her dinner. And I would then also have your son over and stuff like that. But it's such a small school that it was impossible to not know everybody.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody.
It really was a very small school. Yeah.
So we did play dates and we also, I think when we look back, during that time when we were friends, I think subconsciously we were wondering if they were getting on with each other or not.
Yeah.
We didn't plan anything at all, genuinely. But looking back, I think both of us were feeling like, oh, they're really getting on with each other. That's really nice. So that was how we initially, the bonds between them initially formed. Yeah.
And after both of your marriages had ended and you lived separately for a while, how did your children then find out that you were in a relationship with each other?
Before I told my children about Amy, I told them that I was gay, that's always been a very important part for me to distinguish the two. Okay. I haven't just come out because of Amy. I'm a lesbian. And I told my son, I had such an emotional conversation with him, and he's just so brilliant. And I said, at the time at school, they were going through a thing where I think it was boys weren't allowed to play netball, and he really wanted to play netball.
Sorry, can I just have a moment to say, what the fuck? Why?
I know, and I can't understand it either as well, because let's remember that he's 8, okay? And I remember at school, I always wanted to play football, but I wasn't allowed to because I was a girl. So I was having a chat with him and I said, Mummy's not with Daddy anymore. And the reason is a little bit like, you really want to play netball, but you're not allowed to. And I said, Mummy's kind of wanted to be with girls, but she's not allowed to. And I said, but you know that you're allowed to play netball if you want to, don't you? And he was like, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, I guess what I'm trying to say is Mummy's gay. And he just looked at me like, huh? And then he gave me such a big hug, and it was such a beautiful moment. And he then just didn't care ever again, genuinely, ever again.
Yeah.
I think I make a lot more sense to him now he's got older as a lesbian than I ever did as a straight mum.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? For him, it's obviously not such a massive part of who you are as maybe it is for other people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think children care who you're with as long as you're happy and healthy, and that your relationship with them is great with the children. Apart from that, honestly, we've had so many people ask us, how did the children take it? We haven't got a very interesting answer to that, because genuinely the answer is nothing. That side of it really is nothing.
Homophobia is learned, and it's something that none of our children were ever taught.
No.
So it just doesn't exist in their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's that.
And we have really open and honest conversations all the time, because what we are preparing them all for all the time, and they have already been subject to, is other children making comments.
Yeah.
So we have to prepare them for what kind of thing to say back, or how it might make them feel. Particularly my youngest son and your daughter, so the two, we call them the babies. They're literally, 8 and 9 now, aren't they? They just turned 8 and 9. But we always say, are you having the babies? Okay, so they will always be that to us. But they've definitely had people say things at school, haven't they? Yeah. And then actually felt sad. My son in particular felt really sad about it and very defensive of me. And it was something as simple as, your mum's gay. But it's the way it's said as well, like, this is a really awful thing.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about how there's nothing wrong with being gay, and how we normalize it, basically.
Yeah.
Normalize it. We have conversations that normalize it all the time, and we include them in things. We haven't taken them to, for instance, Pride or anything like that so far, but we might do that this year, and if not next year. But we share with them lots of different things that are to do with sexuality or coming out.
A lot of the women who I work with or who come on the podcast can have an amazing dynamic in their home together, but there's an ex on the scene who might not be so supportive of that relationship. What was the narrative that your children were hearing from their dads about the new setup, and how did that impact you guys?
We've been really lucky with
They've
this.
been incredible.
Genuinely, we don't have anything negative to say about this. Both of them have been so open-minded in terms of that side of things, and I don't think either of them have said anything negative about either of us to their children.
They just wouldn't. They're grown men.
Yeah.
And grown men in the just they really are, and very mature.
Yeah.
Loving and kind.
Yeah.
So that's not ever been anything we even had to say to them beforehand. Please don't.
No.
It never even questioned that would happen.
No, same.
No.
Not even.
Luckily, I can understand that some people don't have that same situation. I feel for them massively. Yeah. Luckily for us, our exes were incredible.
Yeah.
And doing that obviously gave your children emotional permission to like the other person without feeling guilty.
Definitely,
Exactly.
because I can imagine how difficult it must have been for them to come home and be talking about their new step siblings. But honestly, really great.
Yeah.
And then I know now you're set up slightly different. So you've got your own home together. Do you want to share a little bit about how that works practically?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
So we've lived in lots of different situations. We lived together in Katie's rental where the boys had a shared room. Then we went back to living separately for a while. This was all because for the children, it was where they were at in the stage of the bonds that they formed or the relationships that we had with them. Or
We had to try things out.
We had to try things out.
Yeah.
Eventually we moved in. We had this idea. We tried living together. We tried living separately. We couldn't live apart. The kids, when we did then move separately, wanted to be back together. It was like we constantly tried to move heaven and earth to make sure they were happy. And then they wanted to be together again. So anyway, we sat down one evening, and this is about 1.5 years ago now. We were like, what we need is a house that has 2 living rooms and they all have their own bedrooms, but we can have time as our own families. And if they want to be together, they can. And if they don't have to.
Yeah. And dip in and out of this blended family dynamic, guys. Yeah. We can be a 3 or we can be a 6.
This sounds so smart. How on earth did you find the house? And how did you go about picking who got what living room?
Do you know what? That was really easy.
That was an easy part.
So we were just looking, and it was just one of those which was just online.
It was just there.
It was
straight
there.
After the conversation. I think it was actually the next day. The house was there. We went to look at it.
Walked around with our mouths agape, thinking, is there a God?
This house is so perfect for us.
Perfect. Yeah.
You know how like sometimes when you're talking about something, then you go on your phone and your social feeds have got it. Is that happened in real life with you guys?
Yes.
AI was listening that day. Yeah.
So we have 2 living rooms, and we have actually swapped them a couple of times because there's also, we're really lucky with this house. It's in the middle of nowhere and it's absolutely fantastic. But it's also got a 3rd reception room, which we used as a playroom. But we have actually swapped around because of the layout and what again, because of the children.
Children change and grow with the season. So
Absolutely.
What's been fantastic for the first 6 months has needed to adjust.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that we're always just listening to the children and then we'll move heaven and earth for them. But if it's something which we can accommodate for and it works well for everybody, then of course we want to do that.
Yeah.
If it's going to make the house happy, then let's do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess because they're similar sorts of ages, they're going to go through the phases of playroom, gaming den. My older kids are like, can we turn the garage into a gym? That's like their new... They'll hopefully go through that together.
Definitely. They've already planned. This room at the moment is a dumping ground and it needs a bit of love into it. And they've asked for it to be a games room with various bits and pieces in there. So we'll see what happens. I think what we've got now, the setup works the best we've ever had. Would you agree?
It really does work the best it ever has, yeah. Main thing that we struggled with the most, because of course, me and Amy would love to live in a normal sized house, which was of a normal rent and...
One living room that we've decorated together.
Yeah, and it's a lot to have a house of this size. But what we could not get right was the TV situation. We couldn't manage to get it right where we had such different ages at that time. They might be going up and down 5, 6, 7, 8 and stuff. But there is a jump from 5 to 8 and TV shows are ever changing.
Yeah.
So what one child wanted to watch at 8 years old was just, quite frankly, not appropriate for a 5-year-old. Yeah. And what the 5-year-old wanted to watch,
the 8-year-old
didn't.
Yeah.
And we could not keep everybody happy. We couldn't do it. We're just really lucky that we're able to give them this 2 living room situation where they can now free flow in and out and be, like I said before, this 3 or this 6. They've each got their own bedroom, which we're so lucky to have.
Yeah.
It just works so good. I'm so proud of what we've managed to achieve.
And with the 2 living rooms, what's the situation when one of the children wants to go in the living room that's not technically theirs? Like, how do you keep the boundary, but also...
They all go in each other's living rooms all the time.
They do, yeah. And they're also really vocal if they really don't want the other children to be in. But one thing that we have done is said, you can just let us know. You can say really politely to that person that you don't want to hang out right now or that you're just having a bit of chill downtime. But what we don't want is get out. Because we have had that. We have and it hurts. And we've just... Everything can be done with kindness at the end of the day. And that's something which, regardless of this, we want to teach our children to be kind. So yeah, we've had to navigate. There's nothing you could say we haven't navigated. One of the biggest things from last year was them telling each other to get out of the room. It's a control.
Yes.
These children have taught us so much about themselves, and it all makes sense when you look at it from their point of view.
Yeah.
And how have you two got, just talk about something slightly different. Obviously, you both come into this. You're both stepmums now. Do you have similar parenting styles?
No, we don't. No.
Not really.
No.
We've got similar values.
Yeah, the core values
The
are
core
there.
values, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some similarities for sure.
Yeah, and we've changed and evolved ourselves over time.
I was going to say, when I look back to when we were first together, we probably looked like our parenting was very different.
Chalk and cheese, yeah.
But now I would say it feels a bit more similar.
Yeah, I do as well.
I think we've learned from each other.
Yeah.
We've tried things that...
Yeah. How have you got there? Because a lot of what happens in step families, and again, this is male-female step couples that I mostly speak to, will be like one will be more permissive, usually the dad, and one will be more kind of boundaries, stricter. And there seems to be some merging, but not as much understanding as you've got. How have you both managed to do that?
Through trial and error, for a start. And
through very prickly conversations with each other constantly.
Having to be incredibly honest, even when it's almost vile in order to have to say it. For a start off, our children have different bedtimes, and they really had different bedtimes
at the beginning. Yeah, it's more even now, but it was very different.
I was living in the rental and you just moved in and you wanted your children up to bed at their normal time, which they're used to going to, which I completely understand.
Which was?
I didn't have a sort of time as such. It was more...
reading their bodies, I'm guessing.
It was always reading them, probably 7, 7:30, something like that. But I was very much, especially with my little one, very aware that if you're going to feel really rubbish the next day if we don't get to sleep now. I really wanted to keep in place. I'm not a very routine mum. And the one thing I would say that we both are is very child-led.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of gentle parenting in the earlier years. So, but the one routine thing that I've always done is that sort of bedtime evening routine, such, whether that was a bath or a story or now a snack plate or the time that they go up or whatever it might be, and it evolves with their ages. But that was the one thing that felt like I could really keep consistent with. And I didn't have very much control myself, having moved into someone else's house and another woman as well, which was hard, really hard. So that was one thing I could keep consistent. Whereas Katie's children, it was a lot more relaxed. And
I'd been living just with my children then for a month or two. And I was honestly feeling so comfortable and so in control of the situation. And I could see my children were getting on really great. And it was also getting into summer. The evenings were lighter. And my son was older. He's just not ready for bed yet. He's outside playing football in the garden, or he's on the PlayStation, or there's music somewhere in the house. When you've got 2 other children which have gone up to bed, having to then
be quiet,
tone down what's happening down here without letting your child know what you're doing, because he's going to feel a way about these other children going to sleep. And it was just, and also you want your children to go to sleep. So you're thinking, can your children please just be quiet? But at the same time, I don't want to tell my children to be quiet because this is their home. What are we doing here? What are we doing here in order to, can all of these children go up to bed at the same time? No, they can't.
We did try,
but it doesn't work. And like Amy, I've been a mum throughout a huge period of my life. I know exactly what works best for my children. There's no amount of, I think this, or you should do that, which is not going to change that.
But how did you navigate it between yourselves? Because you said then it got quite prickly between you.
Once we always tried to come together and compromise.
Yeah.
But there's just some things which we're not willing to compromise on.
Or if we did compromise on it, we'd end up feeling something internally, which could build into resentment.
The dog brushed the wrong way.
This is the term that Katie uses a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a really good description. I think probably every step parent will understand what we mean when we say that.
The dog being brushed the wrong way.
Yeah. just feeling not quite right.
Not comfortable.
Not
It's not your
comfortable.
core value anymore.
It's really difficult to have those conversations. Sometimes they would go well and we would really hear the other one out and we would come to some kind of compromise or conclusion, not necessarily a compromise, but maybe just a conclusion that was respectful on both sides.
Just saying it out loud sometimes was enough.
Yeah.
I'm feeling this because of this.
But also sometimes it would just be an argument and it wouldn't go well. It didn't feel good. It was a really intensely stressful period of our time that had a lot of conflict in it, which caused us a lot of the time to feel like, I don't even want to be in this relationship. And it was never about how we felt about each other.
It just simply was not working.
It was too difficult with the children.
Yeah. But once we did get those in place, one of the things which we had to say, what are you willing to change and what are you not willing to change? And in all honesty, there they are laid out in front of us. If we don't like it, then this just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And that's that, because these are our children and we want them to be happy.
We haven't had any of these kind of conversations for a really long period of time now.
Yeah.
Really, we are settled into this now.
I think the important thing is, that's why I want to talk about it, is because that's a lot of people will be in that situation. Like how, as you said, things are great as a couple. When we argue, it's about things to do with our kids. It's about how we parent. It's about those things. And I'm curious, because you're both stepmoms, do you think that makes it easier because you both understand what each other are going through?
I think it makes it harder.
Yeah, I do.
We often talk about if it was a stepdad or a stepmom, okay? I think, I don't want to generalise here, but I think in a heteronormative dynamic, you're much more likely going to have that the mum, as that lioness, is going to essentially win most of the arguments or discussions. And
in regards to
with regards to parenting.
Yeah.
And when you have two mums together, honestly,
it's not a case of wanting to win.
No.
It's that this is what needs to happen for me and my children.
You've got such a deep feeling as a mum to your own children.
You do.
You can't really disregard it, I don't think.
Yeah, you're in charge of two little humans each.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do them a disservice here. We know how hard that this has been for them and how much change has been involved. So can I keep your bedtime routine correct? Can I make sure that you're getting what you like to eat for your dinner correct? Yeah, I can definitely make sure that's happening because it's such a small part of every day-to-day life, but it just so happens to have been one of the most difficult for us to navigate.
So I don't know if this is going to sound controversial or different to a lot of step families, but we don't parent the other person's children.
No.
So although we call each other stepmums, we throw it around a lot in the house, don't we? It's not a massive thing, but we are essentially. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We don't parent them.
No.
I was going to ask you about that actually, about if there's ever been any disagreements about how, Katy, you handle Amy's children or vice versa, because there must be some times when there's only one adult in the house and you're responsible for all the children.
When there's only one adult in the house, you have a responsibility, obviously, to make sure that everybody's safe. But there's been occasions where, I've looked after all four of them and your two have been having a boys' play fight, which has got out of hand. I'm going to come in and I'm going to be like, we're done with this game now, guys.
Yes.
Oh, dear. And your mum's going to be home in a minute.
Yeah.
Because also, I actually, as a human being, I don't want to be responsible for that. They're not my children. And I know you feel exactly the same. So a really great way for me, I found, to handle being a step parent is to dissociate, actually, any of the things going on with Amy's children. That doesn't mean that I don't care. I care so much. I absolutely adore them. But if there's something which is going on which is Amy's domain, unless she's asked me, I'm there if you've asked me 100%.
Oh, yeah, we support each other, yeah.
If you haven't, I'm sorry, soldier, but it looks like you're having a rough time over there.
I think, obviously, there's a lot of stepmoms out there. I hear all the time stepmoms who are teachers who are expected to look after the children in the holidays, dad's at work, but they're not allowed to discipline. And you can't really go through that for too long. But it sounds actually in your setup, you've got it working pretty well.
We've learned what works for the children as well. There's certain things which each child's different, and one child will handle being disciplined a lot easier than the other, and that takes time to work out.
So now in your family, do you have a set of rules, broadly rules, that the children follow, or is it kind of Amy's children follow one set of rules and Katie's children follow another set?
Neither of us are massive rule people. I feel like a little bit of both, maybe. Do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that the children now are at a stage where they've become this four. If there's a word being thrown around which we just don't be listening to, like it could be just a silly word, an annoying word, all four of them are saying it.
We're not saying that anymore. We've got things that we collectively say to them together. Sometimes we want something to change, but we deliver it to them separately.
Yes.
So I'll tell my guys and Katie will tell her guys, but really it's still the same end result.
So it sounds very positive, and I know that there will have been times when the stepfamily stuff has got hard. How do you make sure it doesn't come between you as a couple?
It did used to come between us as a couple on a weekly basis. One of the things that we don't do is we don't get involved in the children's arguments with each other. So if they have arguments with each other, we let that just pan out, as long as it doesn't cross a line, obviously. And if we need to step in and say, we're just going to cool off now, we do that. It doesn't happen very much anymore, to be honest, touch wood. Yeah. But we had to do a lot of that. And instead of us arguing with each other on behalf of our own children, we now just don't. We just don't. It's as simple as that, because what we realised was it was such a waste of energy. For a start off, who's going to actually win here? Because you're trying to win on behalf of your own child.
And
so
just childish.
It's ridiculous.
I don't care who took the stapler or had it first.
Yeah.
I still love you.
Yeah.
And I still love these children.
Yeah.
So shall we just let them sort it out? If we resonate with the children, let them know. I would let my daughter say no, that yes, that's your stapler. I understand that's annoying. Mummy will make sure that we do something so that doesn't happen again. But I'm not taking it up with her after. And I'm certainly not going to her son then about the stapler. That would be terrifying. And yeah, we'll just buy 2 staplers.
Yeah. But again, when we're saying all of this, that's because we have lived through it and done things differently and learned from it.
Yeah.
So we're only able to sit here now and say what we're saying because we've tried to do it the other way and realised that does not work.
Too prickly.
It doesn't work.
Because you're both wired to stick up for your own children.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Definitely.
It doesn't matter whether my son is fully in the wrong and her son is crying his eyes out. He's my son. I can say something about my son. Nobody else can. Only me and his dad can. And it's the same for Amy. So it's had to learn that. It's human nature is who we are. It's built into us, I believe.
Yeah, and that's so important because for so many people, that dynamic with the children and you feeling like you really want to go into bat for your own child, because I think one of you talked about it as being like a lioness and you feel it viscerally, don't you? You really want to stick up for your child, and to manage to separate that from the relationship is so important. Otherwise you just carry it straight in there and then you're fighting with each other.
We just know that the children will be over it so much quicker than we would be if we got involved.
Literally that. We would carry something on with each other and it would get really intense and they couldn't even remember about the stapler.
Yeah, I think once they see that actually mums are in control and they're not worrying, they're not losing their heads and they're certainly not arguing, why are we?
Yeah.
If you could go back to the very beginning of all of it, like the coming out, the bringing of families together, the becoming step-parents to each other's kids, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Okay, I would say not moving in together so quickly. I would definitely advise anybody to take as long as they possibly can to make sure the relationship's formed with you and the stepchildren, with the step siblings, with each other. Lots of days out, family holidays, sleepovers, all of that kind of thing.
You yourself as now a single mum also.
That's a really good point, because we had been in as a family of 4.
Yeah.
And then essentially became a family of 6. We realised we needed to have the 2 3s somewhere in the middle of that and really solidify that.
I don't know about you, but as a stepmom, I was really conscious of wanting the quote unquote new children, like my partner's children, to feel welcome and to feel loved. So I possibly some cases put a bit more energy into them than my own child. And that can be really tricky as well, because you're trying to make sure there's enough love for everyone, which of course there is, but it can be hard to.
I've definitely felt that at times, and then ended up feeling guilty that I'm not with my children as much. But it wasn't so much about doing it because I wanted them to feel welcome, because of course I wanted that, but it was more because I wanted to get it right so badly, sometimes in which case ending up getting it wrong because I was trying so hard.
And sometimes that trying to get it right, like you say, you put so much pressure on yourself. I've definitely put more pressure on myself as a stepmom than I have as a biological mum. I've very much been guided by intuition as a biological mum. That feels right. My child will do that. Then with a stepchild, it's been, I'll read the internet and research everything.
Yeah, I can understand it. My son will sometimes be like, why are you in a bad mood? And then I'll walk through into your living room and I'll be like, hello, guys. And he'll be like, why are you being so nice to them? And you've just had such a go at me. And I'm like, I can't have a go at them. I just can't.
It's so true.
It's just the way it is as well.
Sometimes you end up having a bit more patience for the children that aren't your biological children. We can have situations where, you know, one of our children is upset about something and it's really starting to get annoying and grating and agitating to the mum. And you can see it. Whereas the other mum, the stepmum, is able to comfort them and be patient and give it all the time in the world.
I think it's seeing things with a fresh set of eyes. So we will say to each other, I know I do, I will say to Amy, I will be like, I really can't right now with
and I'll be like,
him or her. Please, can you take over now?
Yeah.
I need 5 minutes. And she does with me also.
Often.
And it just works great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that works I know me and my husband will sometimes have that. I'll hear him, he'll be doing bath time or whatever, and I'll be downstairs and I'll hear him and I think he could really use a hand. Babe, do you want to just swap and I'll do bath time?
Yeah.
And they're like, look at you with these grateful eyes. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we do this a lot.
Yeah. It's good when you can be a team. Look, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been such a joy to speak to you, and I'll pop all your details in the show notes. Anybody who wants to can go and follow you for a daily dose of joy and some of the realities of what you've been through. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having
so
us.
much.
We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Loved that chat. Katy and Amy were honest about something that doesn't get said enough. That even when the relationship is solid, even when you're both trying really hard, building a stepfamily can bring you to the point where you think, this is just too hard. And then you find a way through it. If you're somewhere in that messy middle bit right now, come and find me at stepmomspace.com. There's coaching, group programs, and resources to download. And if this podcast helps, please do rate and review on Apple and Spotify. It helps other women find us and makes a real difference. I'll be back next week with another new episode. Till then, take care. And if you know you need support, whether that's for you on your own or you and your partner together, but you're not sure yet what's right, book a free clarity call with me. It's a 15-minute chat about what's going on and whether I can help. The link is in the show notes or at stepmomspace.com/clarity.